Hello, everyone, and welcome to Futur 3 Zone. Today's episode is in English for the very first time. Welcome, everyone. I hope you have a great day. The topic that we want to talk about today is how to research trends. And for this, we invited a guest, Els Dragt from the Netherlands. She's a freelance trend researcher and trend trainer. She also has a one-woman company called Studio Elsewhere, where she challenges you to click elsewhere, go elsewhere, listen elsewhere, and read elsewhere, in essence, to explore more. She's also the author of a book, How to Research Trends, which is used at academies as a textbook. Yes, Marcel is showing it, and universities worldwide. And as always, Marcel and I will be your hosts tonight. We're looking forward to this session. We would like to invite you to use the chat function actively and leave us comments or questions as we go. And with this, I'd like to welcome you. Hi, Els and Marcel.
Hi Markus, hi Els.
Hi, Marcus and Marcel. And of course, everyone tuning in.
So today's agenda is short because I think we have a lot to talk about. So we only have two sections, which is at first, and as always, we will have some good news for you. So Marcel will talk about an ugly sweater. I won't say more. Marcel will tell you more. And afterwards, we will go to our main topic. Over to you, Marcel.
Thank you, Markus. Yeah, I find a very interesting link online. And some guys from the university in Maryland, they invented the ugly sweater. I mean, Christmas is coming. We knew all these ugly sweaters at Christmas Eve, but they invented an ugly sweater to trick the AI, artificial intelligence, especially AIs who are capable of face recognition. And the idea is, and Markus will show a video for you guys, is that this sweater is really ugly and so confusing for the AI that the AI is not capable of recognizing the face and at the end the person. And I think that's a really interesting one. For me, it's a combination of good news and a fun fact. But it's for sure something to share with you guys. So have a look at it.
We will leave a link also in the show notes. Marcel, by the way, I just recalled when you said like this every year's ugly Christmas sweaters. Did you know that Microsoft has a yearly ugly Christmas sweater?
No?
Seriously, you can go to the Microsoft store. This year's one is with Clippy. The clip, do you remember from the old Office versions?
Really?
Yeah, they're
No.
like all retro, and I think they're
Of
probably also
course.
collectibles now, right? Because every year it's a different one. So this year's, if you want to start a collection, it's Clippy.
Nice. Do you have a ugly sweater?
I have
Markus?
one, yes.
Really?
Yes, from a gaming YouTube channel. I will put it on later this year, I think in Christmas season in a live stream. That's a good point, Marcel.
Oh, okay. I always thought about to buy one, but it's so ugly. I can't wear it. It's not possible.
Be brave, you can own it. It would also be cool to hear from the audience if you want. Does anyone in the audience have an ugly Christmas sweater? That would be interesting to know. But back to you, Marcel. It just came to my mind when you said the yearly ugly sweaters.
Yeah, I think that's it from our categories today. We said, okay, we have so many questions prepared for Els. And so I would say let's just jump in and talk about how to research trends. So the first question or topic is, Els, why is trend research important for you?
Yeah, and I would even say, like, why is it important to execute it also yourself? I give a lot of trainings, and then I also ask, as my first question also is, like, why would you want to do trend research? You know, it sounds like a nice hobby, but what is it useful for? And I think that when you do it yourself, and it will help you to spot signs of change at an earlier stage. So when you practice the scanning trend scanning. It will help you to quicker see what's changing in society. When you analyze it, you will also understand what these signs are telling you. So why are these changes happening? And when you understand better why these changes are happening, it will also help you then to use your trend insights to maybe create new ideas and new innovations yourself, because you know you have a good basis to ideate from. So in essence, I would say that trend research really helps you to spot change at an early stage, understand change, and also create change in a better way.
Yeah, nice. There's also, I think it's from trend watching, a nice overview. Maybe Marcus, you can show it a little bit. And I think it also displays the respective topics you talked about. So there's a kind of the macro trends they are developing. Then we have the basic needs of humans. And at the end, the innovations, so the manifestations of a trend, which is always there. And when you combine this, you really have a good overview about consumer expectations. When you have an understanding of how these all three come together, I think that's very important. And what I like at this overview, it's also that you see when you miss something out, what's the gap. For example, when you look at the macro trends, the mega trends, or you leave out the mega trends, for example, and look just at the innovations and the basic needs, there's a big chance that you more or less produce more of the same, which is already there. Or, for example, when you look at the basic needs and the mega trends, but not at the innovations, the manifestations, they are already there will be some expectation gap. And I think that's, it's a really good overview to understand how these things are coming together and how important trend research is when it comes to innovations in a good way, as you said.
Yeah, exactly. Because what I also like about this model, that it's also shows that you need to understand the needs underlying all these signals of change, these innovations that are popping up, you know, to what kind of basic needs do they link and relate to? Does that say about the macro trends that are happening? I think this layer of going from the more concrete level of like new products, new services, new styles, new language, to okay, but what's the story behind all these isolated or seemingly isolated trend signals or innovations, as they call them in this model. That's where the added value mainly is in trend research. Otherwise, if you would only stick to spotting innovations, you would only do the scanning part and not the analysis and applying.
What I see often is, especially from tech guys, that they not have an understanding for the basic needs. You know, they look at the innovation and what is possible, but they don't look, okay, which basic needs is this fulfilling, which problem is it solving?
Yeah, it's true. I think a lot of people, I think not even only tech guys, but or girls, but that they get bedazzled by all this nice, shiny new innovations, and that the focus can sometimes be too much therefore on the form or what it looks like or the technology that's in there, you know. So that's also why in the media you hear a lot about, like, for instance, ooh, there's 4D printing, it is the new trend or something, you know. Or we have now these ugly sweaters that are tricking AI, it is the latest trend. But I would always say, no, you have to understand why people would want to use the 4D printer or wear this type of sweater. What kind of need does it fulfill? That's the next question that you always have to try to answer and understand.
Yeah, that's also true that this is probably in like many sectors, because it's definitely on the tech side of things that you do like tech stuff for the sake of tech, or new tech, but the same is often sometimes in design, right? And some designers are design something for the design's sake or something, or a philosophy that they follow, which might or might not fit to the product at hand. But because just being in love with,
Or in fashion, for instance, you have all these different fashion styles, and then it can be like that you just see only the specific color or the pattern, but what's the story behind it? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think to bring it together, it comes to my mind that you could almost say that you can't do these things in isolation just with this topic. If you disregard, for example, either the basic needs or any of these points that we've shown in the diagram, they kind of like come together.
Yeah, the only thing that I always find a bit annoying, of course, is when I'm, for instance, contacted by the media. They say like, "Oh, this trend is happening," but then they mention a manifestation or a sign of change. Say like, "Cottagecore is happening. Could you please react to this trend or something?" And then I always say no to this kind of request, because it's too much on the superficial level, and often they don't want to hear about the nuance behind it. That's always my frustration, I think, when we talk about trends, that a lot of people think it's mainly about these nice innovations. While for me as the researcher, it's much more about this analysis and the underlying understanding these emerging needs, desires, and expectations.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think the media approaches trend researchers like yourself more or less on this level, the superficial level? Is it the way how the narrative currently works and sells well, or do they want this superficial level?
Yeah, I think so, because again, it's more these shiny kind of new innovations that are nice to show and to talk about. Maybe it's maybe a better clickbait than a nuanced article that will tell you also about all the more sociological analysis behind it, all the historical timelines leading up to these signs or these products or services or styles happening right now. It's often not what, it's often more complex and also not so black and white, and that's often not so nice for media purposes.
Yeah, and maybe at the end you're telling them, well, it's not really a new trend, it's just one manifestation of a trend which is already there since, I don't know, 5 years, and that's not a good headline, right?
No. Exactly.
So Els, I'm a big fan of your book, and
Thanks.
as everybody can see, I'm really working a lot with it. It's really heavily used. The question is how you came up with the idea for that book. What was the trigger and the idea behind writing this book?
Yeah, at the time of writing the book, I was working part-time as a teacher at a bachelor education in the Netherlands, and we were all the time looking for materials for students, for theory, to make like a reader or something. And in the end, I was talking also with people from this, with colleagues from this studies program, and I said like, okay, maybe we should just create a book ourselves for, that we at least know that it's catered specifically to the way that we want to educate our students on trend research, because this was a program where they do 4 years of training, and trend research is at the core of this training. So it's quite special also. It's quite unique. So we couldn't find a book that fit our way of working. So I volunteered to do this because I was interested in seeing if I could do it also. So it was also kind of a challenging project for myself. But that was the reason, or the main reason how it started. We couldn't find a book that that fit our program. So we decided, okay, let's write one ourselves.
I remember the first time we met online, and we also talked about a business. And you told me that, of course, you also do trend research for companies, but you are much more interested into teaching people how to do trend research. And then you said to me, well, I know this is not a best business model, but for me, it's important. Why is it important for you?
Yeah, because I also, in the beginning of when I started out with trend research, I also did a lot of this trend reports writing, trend presentations, like where you are on a stage and you say like, oh, these are the most important trends. And then often it felt like people were inspired at that moment, but then the next day they would just go about their regular things and nothing really changed in at least not enough for me. And when I did like the teaching job with students, I saw that when you taught people themselves how to do trend research, the process, it really also changed their whole outlook on and mentality on how they looked at the world around them. And then I thought like, oh, this is actually much more interesting, at least for me. I would love for more people to experience this effect, to be able to also have this change in behavior mindset by learning at least and going through the trend research process at least once yourself. And I also think it will help you also better to understand what's in all these external trend reports and in these trend presentations, where it's coming from, that you understand better like how to interpret it also. Because often a lot of companies say like, yeah, we have a lot of subscriptions to all these information sources. We have McKinsey reports and Accenture reports and trendwatching.com reports and I don't know. But yeah, we just keep gathering more information, but we don't actually know what to do with it. And I think by understanding the process and having experienced it yourself, you know better what to do with this type of information.
So where is this information mostly coming from, according to your experience, when people see a presentation of someone who talks, let's pick future of work, and then they say, these are the 6 most important trends in the space of future of work. Where do they typically come from that can irritate people who consume it, and where do you think they should come from? Like, how do you say these are those 6 or 5?
I'm not sure if I understand, but
so if someone claims these are the 5 most important trends in the space of future of work, that comes from somewhere. Where do they typically come from, these lists? And where do you see sometimes problems with these lists where you think this would be, according to your model, for example, a good way of coming up with the 5 or 6 trends to a specific topic like future of work, education, or whatever?
Yeah, I think it really is very different for every type of trend researcher or company on the type of sources that they use. So I don't know if I can say typically but sometimes like we also discussed earlier, sometimes you can see on these lists already that they stay on this level of manifestations, innovations, and that the trends are not really about the values and needs. So that to me is often a bit too superficial. Or it can also be that it's quite abstract, so going more into the mega trends like, yeah, aging population and the future of work. But that's also quite a big topic to grasp, like digitalization, individualization, you know. So for me, the sweet spot is often to connect like this concrete level of the signs and the manifestations and the bigger driving forces like aging society, globalization, is this layer of these values and needs, which is more on the psychological level. For me, that's always the most crucial thing. And often, at least what I perceive in my trainings when I ask people like, what type of sources do you use to stay updated, that they often stick mostly to desk research. Whereas I would say like, that's nice because it's very comfortable to stay behind your computer and have your nice coffee and then do some bit of research. But I think it's really also necessary and also providing a lot of value if you really go outside and put in some extra effort to really meet people or go where the innovators are, go to trade shows, go to exhibitions, go street hunting. It gives you a better understanding because you've done it more like primary research in a sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, for me, it's always can just agree with that. For me, it's so important also to see things, and also for me, I'm really a visual guy at the end, and I always need to try things out. Then I always get a much deeper and different experience and understanding at the end of it.
Yeah, I think so too. You really understand it better when you've seen it yourself, or you heard someone talk about why they invented something new or created a new business model or created a new academic model, or because these visionaries, these change makers, they always want to share like what their vision is of the future. It's quite easy to get them talking or to find them on stages or in podcasts or whatever. So so I think combining the desk with the field research will also help you to create these better trend presentations, I would say.
You already mentioned the trend research circle. What I would say is the major model around your book. Can you explain it a little bit more to our audience? What is the trend research about? Trend research circle about?
Yeah. Because I was writing the book also specifically for this bachelor program, um, we used scan, analyze, and apply already as phases in our teaching. So I also used these phases in the model to give you some guidance on the steps to go through, but hopefully, at least that was my aim, that it's not too rigid. So scanning is still quite broad. Everyone can do their own type of scanning, so to say. Everybody can have their own way of analysis. You can still put your own fingerprint on the model. I didn't want it to be too rigid. So often when I work with people, I don't even show all these separate steps like you see in the outer ring. I just show them scan, analyze, apply, and then talk about it. But for the students, because they really have to have a bit more guidance and really have to in-depth learn it, I also added these 3 steps per phase also to have some extra guidance.
So it was also part of the output during the book project, creating this trend research cycle, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
I also interviewed a lot of trend watchers, like I think 30 people, and actually also asked them like, how do you scan, how do you analyze, how do you apply trends, and also got a lot of information from them. So it's kind of like, the way that we did it at this bachelor program, combined with all the ways of working from other people around the world, trend researchers around the world, and my own experiences working at agencies and doing the research in a professional capacity, that kind of created this model.
I really like it. I think it's a really good overview, and as you said, it gives guidance, especially when you're new to that topic. And I also use it in my lectures, and I always got really good feedback and from the students and say, wow, that's something we can really work with, and that gives us orientation. Yeah.
Yeah, because I
Pretty
think
cool.
when you're new to this whole subject, you have no clue. You know, when you're 17 years old and you go to school for the first time, you hear about trend research. You know, where to start? Yeah. Oh, I don't know about you, but also when I started out in this field, there also wasn't a lot of guidance available. I felt it was still a bit more secretive, and people kept their ways of working, yeah, more to themselves. Like agencies didn't really reveal what they were doing; they were just showing the output, like the nice trend presentations. And I feel like in the past maybe decade or something, it opened up more. I would say like it's kind of the new school of trend research where it's more participative, open, transparent, and I like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit like, oh, well, how we do trend research? Well, that's our Coca-Cola formula, our Coca-Cola form. You don't want to share it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I would say let's jump into the phases, and we already started talking about the scan phase
Mhm.
and about especially the spotting. And you already said, yeah, it's really important to combine the desk and the field research. What as I said, also think it's very important, very, very important. For me, I do a lot of keynotes as well. And for me, it's when you really go out and you talk to the people, you try things out, you can tell much better stories.
Mm.
And I think that's the reaction and feedback I get. It's a good story. It's really important also to translate this trend more or less for the people, and to make a good story. It's really important for their understanding, and not just make a slide and I don't know, that's the trend. There's this trend. No, you need when you really into this trend, you can tell a story, and in my point of view, then the people much better understand the trend and can also adapt it for their own business, for their own innovations, for their own life.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's always the main goal in the end, that you want people to understand it better and to apply it to their own, yeah, situations and projects or even personal life, maybe. So, yeah, I think when you have, like you say, this first-hand experience more with the trend because you do field research, yeah, it will definitely give you more insightful stories. Also, you can use these citations from the people that you were talking with, quotations, and that makes it come alive much more. Yeah.
And you can share your own pictures, and not that pictures everyone else is downloading from the internet.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember now you're saying this, that I also interviewed Rodrigo dos Reis, is a trend researcher from Brazil, and he said, yeah, he often likes to insert this more rough kind of own made footage and photos because everybody's using these glossy pictures from the internet, but it can also be yeah, a specific style to use your own pictures, and you don't have copyright issues also, so that's also nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Markus, when we talked about the spotting in our pre-call, you brought up an example from the Pony Express.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this topic? I found this very interesting.
Yeah, let me quickly show the Pony Express maybe here in the stream. So, yeah, what we see here is a scene from the mid-19th century in America, where you see this Pony Express rider greeting these people along the road and basically thinking, I don't know, they have nothing to do with me, so hey, good morning, and minds his own business. Because obviously in his understanding of what he's doing, it has nothing to do with him and his business putting up poles and connecting them with copper cables, because they maybe are concerned with blacksmiths, saddle makers, people who take care of the road infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So all the trends that they are seeing in their direct business might have to do with their current business and on business operations. Now when we look at this picture, we're futurists for them, right? So for us, we see something completely different here. We see maybe something that in the end has everything to do with them that they think has nothing to do with them. So what happened is that they might have had to understand themselves on a more meta or philosophical level what they're actually doing, which is being in a communication business, right? Bringing one letter from A to B, for example, to even spot, speaking about spotting, to even spot that these people along the road might have something to do with them. And I think that is, for me, something very important in spotting. When you are, no matter what industry you're in, right? The Pony Express for me is not more this analogy, right? But you can be in any kind of business, mobility, or I don't know, whatever business you pick. The capability to see that these people who are doing this weird thing might have something to do with us, I think is key. And maybe else you have, maybe there's a trick, maybe there's a secret to not just pay attention to a new material for rain jackets, which is obvious for the Pony Express. Let's buy those jackets. We can stay longer in the rain. Therefore, we have a competitive advantage. And while you do so and you spend millions, maybe the others will continue putting up the telegraph. So what's the secret?
Yeah, I think the secret is to practice it a lot. So there's not a shortcut, I think. So I think when you start with spotting, you often don't really have a reference on what you can compare your first spots with. But the more that you do your spotting, the more that you can compare it to what you've spotted before, and you know better, like, oh, this is really, really, really new, and this is maybe already becoming more mainstream, or I've seen this already in different industries popping up, or it's already kind of embraced or adopted by a lot of people. So I think and yeah, really putting in the effort. So this today I also did a workshop, and I always send people outside for, say, 1 hour. And the briefing is find signs of change. And then often there are people immediately that ask, like, on what topic? In our industry, or and I say, no, it can be anything. And then at first they are a bit confused or worried, like what to do. But then often they come back and they are quite enthusiastic. They're like, oh yeah, when I really focused, or at least try to look around, I see so many things actually. And people realize that often we are in zombie modus a lot. Like, you go to your work and you use the same route, you go to the same supermarket often, you have all these routines, and it's also because it makes life easier, of course. But for the spotting, it's good to break those routines. So that's maybe also a tip to try to come out of your zombie modus and try out new sources. So, like, buy a different newspaper every week, for instance, buy a magazine that you normally would never buy, go to different stores, just to get yourself out of your routine and broaden your scope on how you see the world.
That's wonderfully put. Yeah. Sorry.
Look elsewhere.
Look elsewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
I really like that pitch. Look elsewhere. It's a really good one.
It's it's really true. This is probably a very important part in the teaching of this trend spotting, to understand this, like you say it so well, like zombie mode. Like, even if people go to work, they look at their phone while they're in the tram or while they walk even sometimes. And the ability to observe is almost like lost. We're so in this attention economy and whatever, and we're absorbed. We're really like in zombie mode. And for spotting, or when your task is to spot change, you need to get out of it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
So from my experience there, the one thing is, and I'm not sure, I think Marcus, you already mentioned, is that I have the feeling that a lot of companies, they do not understand in which business they are really in, you know? So I had a lot of or some projects also in the sports area, and I always tell them, no, it's the competitor is not another soccer club. It's not other soccer club. Your competition is the experience industry.
Yeah.
You know, that's your industry. Netflix, that's your competitor. You know,
Entertainment.
Entertainment, experience, and I think that's a very important thing. And the second point is, I totally agree to all looking elsewhere, and that's super important. But I have always the feeling, especially when it comes to companies, that they do not have the time for doing that. They're so stressed in their daily business, and so they're always looking for the quick wins. You know, the rainbow, the rain jacket. That's what they're looking for all the time, and yeah.
That's also what I then show them by going outside for 1 hour. So today was also with a group of, I don't know, 15 people. They all go outside for 1 hour, and we had over 300 pictures of signs of change. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time, especially not when you combine forces and you use your combined eyes of your company. So that's always also what I say afterwards, like, okay, you don't have any excuses anymore that research takes such a long time. No, I don't have the time for it. If you do it every month, just 1 hour maybe, and everyone would do that, you have so much information. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think if it becomes routine, it helps. But also what just came to my mind is, again, no matter which industry, if you talk to pharma or like you say, a soccer club, in the end, like we talk to these clients, for example, and they are in their own expert role. They know everything about soccer or pharma or banking, mobility, whatever you pick. And to bring that out, like you say, bring the soccer club mentally to entertainment, bring pharma to recognize, for example, that not maybe the other pharma companies, your competitor, maybe someone who produces functional food to keep people more healthy is your problem, and not someone has a better drug for the same illness, right? Maybe the illness disappears. And this crossing, getting them out of their expertise mode, like the Pony Express being a rider business, so crucial and yet so hard, I think.
Yeah, because it's of course very comfortable to stay in your expertise zone.
Yeah.
Then again, I also often like to use this quotation from, I think it was a Buddhist Zen saying like, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, and in the expert's mind there are few. Because when you're an expert, you often think you know the answers already, and you start narrowing down already quite quickly to a certain route or to a certain direction. Whereas if you would try to look at the world from this more kind of open, like you were an alien and you just landed on Earth, and you would say like, what is happening here? What is this? What is this? And what I'm seeing here, that can really help you to get different types of information in.
Yeah, I love this analogy, or this looking at the world with alien eyes. You just landed here. What do you see? I love it. It also reminds me of, do you both know the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Yeah,
I heard this. Yeah.
It's kind of like this thing where in the beginning you know very little, and then very fast you think you know a lot. And you're like, oh, I'm the pro now. And
Mount Stupid.
Yes.
That's Mount Stupid.
The Mount Stupid.
It's the mountain Donald Trump loves most.
But it's really to understand that you're talking now to someone who's on that mount, and the Dunning-Kruger effect, it's also like a curve. It's very important, because once you pass that, you start, like in this Buddhist saying that you say, you start realizing how little you know. But the dangerous phase is you know enough about something that you think you know it all. And it can happen in photography, it can happen in whatever you're programming, playing golf or tennis, doesn't matter. Like, there's this Dunning-Kruger effect, and I really love it. Maybe Marcel also something. Maybe we can talk in one of the shows in the future. But that is something I related so much else to what you just said. That if you encounter people on that Mount Stupid, I didn't know that expression, but the peak of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
The Mount Stupid.
Mount Stupid, I love it. Yeah.
But actually now it makes me think you're saying this like, oh, but where are we then when it comes to trend research? Do we maybe also think we are experts?
I ask myself that so often, where am I? Because I'm aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect, but it's so hard to say, where are you on it? It's so hard to say, where am I? I am somewhere there with everything I do, cooking, whatever, tennis, programming, or trends, but I don't know where.
But I think it's a really good example to close a little bit this scan phase. It's like, for me at the end, it's a skill, right? It's always, people also ask, so do you have a schedule when you do it? No, at the end, I do it all the time. I walk around with open eyes, and when I see something interesting, I just document it at the end. Yeah. And I had an intern during summer. She's working for the police in Germany. And I also said to her, so let's do some trend exploration. And she was like, yeah, where should I start? And I said, I don't know, just walk through this city and look what kind of interesting things you can spot. And at the end, she did this for 2 hours, and she had really remarkable results. So she looked at the program from the theaters and advertising stuff and magazines and things like that. And it was pretty cool, to be honest. And I said, look, this is what we're doing. That's it at the end.
I think so too. And as you can see, it's quite easy even to start with it. You just have to go through this threshold of, oh, I don't know what I'm looking for. But then when you just start walking and observing, you will see that there's so much interesting new things around you to collect. And that's also to wrap up the scanning, and that I always like to create these kind of evidence walls. Maybe you can show the picture of when you've done your scanning and you have this whole collection of interesting signs of change, also to make it tangible, that it's not like in an Excel sheet somewhere or only in a text file, because different people also analyze in different ways. So for some it really works better if they can move around in their database, so to say. So that's often what I also try to recreate, like almost like that you are a trend detective, and you create these walls where you have to connect the dots and
like in the crime movies, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So when we jump to the analyze phase, it's about clustering the trends to see which trends, which manifestations are more or less maybe a cluster, to validate it, and at the end to label it. I really love the label part in this phase. What would you say are the do's and don'ts in this phase?
Yeah, well, I think with analysis it's always crucial that you don't do it alone, because it's very good to have different perspectives on all the things that have been spotted, because it's also like this more qualitative information. And also when you do qualitative research, normally you would also not do it alone. So I think it's best to do it at least with one other person or with a team, that you together discuss everything that you spotted and shift around and then try to group everything. I think that's one of the quite crucial aspects of analysis. And I think analysis is also very much about clustering according to these values and needs. So you're not going to cluster like, okay, these innovations are all blue, or these innovations are all cars, or it's more about clustering, like, okay, which of these signs actually fulfill the same need, but they might be very different in the way that they look, or the industry that they come from, or and that's often quite difficult at first. Like you also said, like a lot of people stay on this more concrete level, but it's really about digging deeper and understanding how they connect on this values and needs and desires level.
Is it like a?
I think
Oh, sorry.
in the book, I think you said connecting the dots. I think for me, that's the really interesting point. Connecting the dots about the big trends, mega trends, the human needs, the manifestations you find. I think that's really work, right? That's not just do it in an hour. It's really like you have to really dig into it, right?
Yeah, because often you also, when you do your analysis, you sometimes also feel like, oh, there's a gap somewhere, or feels that I don't have enough information yet, or you get actually all kinds of questions also during your analysis that you will have to find answers to. So it's in that sense also often that you go back to the scanning phase again, get some more information in, and then go further with your analysis. So that's also cycler in essence. I'm also curious, why do you like the label part so much, Marcel?
I think that's the creative part, I think there comes really the creativity in. And in my point of view, this is it's a very powerful step. If you really can label a trend good, it's quite a step, to be honest. When you make a good labeling and make people understand the trend. And for example, when I look at Mark Zuckerberg and Meta and the metaverse, in my point of view, to bring this mega trend, a metaverse alive, this hype alive, it was also kind of a labeling process, right? Because he put this label on it, and because a lot of things we are talking now, the metaverse here, the metaverse there, a lot of these things, they're here for 20 years now. But he got this label on it, and then it was like, it's like at the moment, like you were at every newspaper, it's like metaverse, And so I think for me it's interesting because of the creativity and the power behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe also for the audience to understand, like with label, I also mean, creating your trend title and searching for like iconic imagery that represents like what your trend cluster is about. So yeah, it's really very much about copywriting skills, I think, and also have this visual feeling for showing the mood behind the trend, so to say. Yeah, and I think it's very smart from Meta to coin this whole metaverse and have their brand name like so central in it that everybody is using it in this way. Yeah.
For example, what I like also in the scan phase because of that is street art. I really like to look at street art. I mean, we all know the saying, there's one picture says more than 100 words. And I think it's the same with a trend, right? If you have a really good picture, people understand that development much better. And especially if you have a good artist who can bring this development into a picture. I really love this.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful if you can find this iconic image that represents the trend and all its glory, so to say. That you only have to show it and you can shut up like ta-da. Yeah.
So maybe here also a question on the audience. What was the I don't know, the last label trend you saw, or which label you find very interesting, or which name. For example, I really like the name localization. So the combination of finding a good balance between local and global. That's what we see at the moment when it comes to the producing industry, but also to governance when we talk about energy and things like that. And for example, that's also interesting label, localization. It's like this wordplay between local and global. That's a label I really liked in the past years.
And it's often that the titles are like two words that are combined, or that it's like two words that alliterate, so they start with the same letter. So for instance, like this newer branch within the whole sustainability movement is like regenerative resilience, RR, you know, or it's about living a holistically happy life, HH, and then but it still quite works, and actually it's maybe corny, but I also like that when it alliterates somehow, maybe also because you can remember it better. And that's also what you're trying to do with these titles, is that that they become kind of an anchor, that when people can use them also in their daily work or processes, like, oh, we should do something with localization or with regenerative resilience, or it becomes the go-to term that they can use to talk about it internally also.
Did you realize that all these comic figures, also like Lucky Luke, Tick Trick Track, Mickey Mouse, it's always the same?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, Benjamin Blümchen.
Never thought of it, yeah.
Yeah, it's always, when you look at it, the same approach.
Yeah, I never thought of it actually. Yeah, but there must be like some mechanism behind it that really...
Yeah, of course. Of course, it's for sure not a coincidence.
Who's Benjamin Blümchen?
Markus, you know it?
Yeah, I think it's probably a German thing.
It's a German thing, yeah. It's about an elephant.
Oh.
Yeah, a funny elephant, yeah, with a red cap, and it's really cool. Also, Bibi Blocksberg, I think it's also German, right?
Probably, yeah. Have you heard of Bibi Blocksberg? No. Okay. So I guess many countries have their own like children narratives, kind of like, I was listening to them on cassette, like so cool.
So I would say let's jump to the last phase, the apply phase. There, it's about scope, communicate, and translate. And for me, it's this scope and communication phase, or part of the applying phase, is for me super important. That's what I really learned the last years, really to understand the scope, what the people want to use the trend research for. It's about, I don't know, enterprise strategy. Is it about marketing? Is what you want to do, why you want to do it, and all that questions at the beginning, they are so important. In my point of view, that really make a good scope and have a good understanding why they come to you and why they want to work with trends at the end, right? Yeah. And I really loved the list in your book.
With the questions that you can ask.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting because some people also ask me, like, why is scope in the last phase? Shouldn't it be at the beginning of the whole process? And I think that's also a valid point. Like, maybe it could also be like, before starting to do your whole trend research, you could also first scope it. But the only thing that I'm a bit worried about is that when you scope it too narrow, you don't go into the scanning with a very open mind. Then you would already say, yeah, we want to use it to innovate, or I don't know, a specific product line or something, and then people would do the scanning also on these types of products already. That's why I actually moved it a bit further in the cycle, to make sure that people still do the scanning and analysis in a very open way, and then use their insights in the apply phase. Then you get to narrow things down and think like, okay, what am I going to use the output from my analysis phase, so the trend insights for? What are people looking for inside our company or in our teams? Yeah. What do you think? Should it be more at the beginning, or is this also
For me, this fits very well because I do the scanning all the time, you know. For me, it's the scanning and analyze phase. I do this more or less all the time. And then it comes to a project. And then, okay, then you do the scoping and see, okay, how can I customize this, or how can I narrow it down for the respective customer or project? So for me, this fits very well.
I think for me it is very interesting to see it here, because from my experience, I often feel people are starting with the scope. Okay, they start a meeting. Okay, what's the scope? You know, and here it's so cool that it allows for the scanning not to be restricted by the scope. So very, very thought-provoking in my opinion.
okay? So I should leave it this way then, because maybe a scoop. I'm going to update the book next year, so I'm also thinking about like what should I maybe change or add or.
I must say I like it because if we think again back to the analogy with the Pony Express, if you scope it in the beginning and you say, let's look at potential things in the rider business, you will never see the telegraph.
Yeah.
Right? So if the scope is immediately anything that has to do with horses and the infrastructure they need, that's it. You're done. So that's actually surprisingly cool that it's there.
Okay.
Like, I've never seen it so late in the phase, and it's cool.
Absolutely. You have to look elsewhere.
Yes.
Like this. And also the second step in this phase, the communication, I also learned it's super, super important, because my experience is the trend guys, like we are, we love our trends, right? We love our trend research, we love our findings, we love our detective boards, you know. But at the end, if you are not able to translate this into the language for your customer, everything what you did before is useless, right? Because if they don't get it,
Yeah.
if they don't find a value in it,
Exactly.
it's a shame if you
people
lose your
to-
audience there.
Yeah, I think so too. You want people to feel comfortable with having at least some recognition, like, oh yeah. I can now see how we are in our industry or in our company. Yeah, we should also do something with this trend. There should be some recognizable effect, but also it should still be inspirational also. So it should not be like that they would say like, yeah, I knew this already, you know, nothing new here. So it's always finding this balance between like, yeah, what you show. So it's very much like a curation process on all the information that you have and all your insights, like, and the company culture to understand like, yeah, how it could work best. And I think that's also asking from you as a researcher to put yourself into the shoes of the people who have to work with the trends.
Yeah, and I think we also talked on our pre-session about it. For me, it's super important, especially to look. So how progressive is the company? How progressive is when it comes to innovation? Are they really an innovator, or early stage, late majority, laggard? I think that's super important, especially which trends I pick at the end, you know, because if someone is we are super innovative, so I show them different trends from a different life cycle level of a trend. When I talk to laggards at the end, to be honest, I show them most of best practices from across industry, because that's what they can work with. You know, they say, they're doing this, okay, we can do that. Otherwise, they do not have, in my point of view, it's my experience, they do not have the capability to translate this and have the time and the resources to do all these experimentation things, and spotting and so on.
Yeah, true. And it's also about with some audiences, you can really show like very conceptual kind of manifestations, these very almost science fiction out there, arty kind of things that you spotted. Whereas for others, that is like totally incomprehensible, like no idea what to do with this. And it really has to be more grounded. And like you say, like more validated examples that have already proven to have worked. So low risk kind of feeling. So yeah, I think it's always different in that sense. And talking about this innovator curve, like this early adopter innovator, I also often use it in trainings, like ask people like, where do you plot your company? And then it's always a very a good discussion that emerges because everyone in the room puts it somewhere
Yeah,
different.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
By the way, I don't want to be the spoil sport, but the hour is already over. We're
It's
going
over.
overtime again, like always. How do we close it off? What are important last things we should quickly talk about for the audience that we bring this to a round end?
How about the y-axis to close it up, or do you think this was open something new?
Yes. That's a whole can of worms that, yeah, it's quite
Okay.
late to bring it up. Is there another, maybe graphics
So
we need to show, or how? I would have one more question for Els, but
So I think to close the applying phase, it's about translate. And so in my point of view, please add you guys as well. It depends on which level they want to use trends. Like if it's about a new product, okay, you go into ideation. It's about when it's about enterprise strategy, you use, I don't know, for example, a systematic method to analyze it, and so on and so on. I think then it's all about what is the goal, and then you choose the respective methods to translate it in the best way.
Yeah, and then you can also click all kind of other things on this phase, like I don't know, design thinking tools or business model
Exactly.
canvases or whatever you use to get the ideation part going and the translation part. But I must say, for me as a researcher, I'm always more about the scanning and analysis part. And then the translation, I always do like one first step, but then I'm more like, okay, other people can take over. It's also maybe a different type of skill where you can get more like conceptually creative, design kind of people in.
it's actually a very good point that you bring up when you said you want to update the book. What I'm wondering, I have no idea if this can fit into the graphics, but is there maybe a scale on how much you should be an expert in the matter at hand in specific phases, right? Would it be, for example, that the more you close that circle, that the more it is, if you're looking at mobility, you need to be in mobility or in pharma or finance, like, and in the beginning it can be anything. You should look at the world like a child, right? I wonder if there's this like expert thing that increases and increases the further you go through a circle. Just a question that just pops.
Yeah. I can think about that. Yeah. I'm not sure. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
me neither. Just like was
yeah.
thinking, well, is that maybe necessary? Because I remember from when I think of work, the closer I get to the translation phase, I need to find anchor points in the present that relates this whatever novel thing to now. And one needs to know a lot about now and how the business works to find that sticky anchor where you say, this is it. This is the anchor why this relates to me. but this is just something I need to reflect myself. So I learned a lot today, myself, like a really cool trend circle.
So I learned from a script writer that she said the time of Superman, it's over. The future is about the collective. It's about the Avengers. And I think there's a lot of truth in this, and not just for Hollywood, also for the economy.
Yeah, we see more and more things needing collaboration, ecosystems, and not me and my company alone will do this. But like you say, right, you need...
I mean, we just have to look at the problems we're facing at the moment. There's no Superman who can fix this alone. There's not one state who can fix this alone. There's not one company who can fix this alone. There's not one industry who can fix this alone.
What do you mean?
Everything is. We need there. It's and you can see that people are struggling working in these ecosystems and networks.
It's
because
new.
because we still have our silos in our brains and also in our companies, in our politics. But I think that would be totally a new stream talking about this.
That reminds me that if we would go down this route, which we won't, we would also have to talk about new leadership, right? Where in the past, the leader was the one who knew most about something. And today in this eco network thinking, it's to connect people, to enable. Again, that's could be a whole stream, just this topic. But
that would be very interesting, I think. Yeah, like this power of the crowd and cooperative thinking and working. Yeah.
Cool. So, 7 minutes overtime. Not too bad.
It's not too bad, I would say. Yeah.
Cool.
And I can see, of course, the chat in the. But did anyone have any questions also?
No, we didn't have chat interaction. I didn't see any chat, no. I just put myself in chat for the audience if they were interested in the Dunning-Kruger when we were talking about it. But no questions from the audience. Now we have thanks so much for the great talk. Thank you so much. Els, then, do you have any final words, anything to close it? And we have a question to you now. Suddenly they're coming. What will the next book cover?
The updated version?
I don't know. Is it like just an update? Will there be a new an update?
Yeah, because I was also talking to my publisher about this, but I said, like the process is not changing. So it's not immediately or all of a sudden that the whole process is different. So because he said, maybe you can come up with a new model, or I'm like, but the model is not going to change. So, but of course you can update like the case studies and interviews, and of course see if you can tweak some things and make it maybe more have it to be contemporary still, and so it will be more of a revised version.
Okay. Then we have 2 thank you messages. Thank you for all the amazing insights, and it was truly amazing. Thank you. And now we have one more. Can you imagine trend forecasting turning into a new academic field?
Yeah, I think some people are already working in it as academics, so it is already like or at least like future thinking, and it's already been done in academics also. So maybe that it will get at least what I see is that it's getting more and more traction and attention. So that might be that it, maybe it becomes a trend in itself to do futures thinking also more, and trend research. But you can see that especially in all these uncertain times that people are looking for ways to get more grip on the future. Although we have to watch out that, of course, at least from my standpoint, nobody can predict the future with 100% guarantee. So having this sense of a grip is maybe also kind of fooling ourselves sometimes a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think no more questions coming in. So then now over to you, Els. Anything you want to add to close the discussion from your side?
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's always nice to have more in-depth conversation about the whole process of trend research. And yeah, I would say to you and to everyone tuning in, watching this, like keep exploring and keep looking and clicking and reading and watching elsewhere, of course, because I think it will really help you to, yeah, to open up your view on the world.
Yeah, nicely said. Marcel, you?
Well, thank you very much. It was really a pleasure. And I could think about a book title called Elsewhere. I think you should do a book about that.
Huh?
This would be a very cool one. And yeah, was really a pleasure as always talking to you. And thank you very much.
And from my side also, thank you so much for being here with us. Also, thank you to the audience for being here with us, watching. Maybe also just one reminder for everyone who maybe doesn't know, we also have a YouTube channel where we store the archive of previous streams, since we cannot store them on Twitch. So if you're interested in seeing maybe what we did previously, please also check out our YouTube channel, which is called the same, Future 3 Zone. Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you again, Els, Marcel, to you. Have a great evening, day, morning, depending on which time zone you're watching today, and hopefully see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.